later on today, I'm gonna bring them over up here and I'm gonna cut this path, make a nice little travel area. I know they're already using it. Now we're gonna start to look for sign now as we walk back through here. All right, what are we doing in the woods in the middle of the summer? I'm thinking about deer season, bow season, right around the corner. Here's a used bullet I found in the woods at one of these areas where we've taken deer before on my farm. Now let's talk today about stand placement. Stand placement is so much common sense, plain and simple. There's several things that you think about in stand placement. It's so easy. Obviously, where are the deer gonna be? And you gotta think about this sort of thing. The main things that they do are bed down and eat, and back and forth and back and forth. If you know where they're traveling, you got half the battle won. Now, they make obvious signs. This is for beginning deer hunters. Just want to get in the woods and figure out where to put their stand. Now, I'm standing here right now in an area where there's a lot of oak trees. Now, I have seen people with feeders that spews out corn and all kinds of stuff. They will walk past that corn to get to acorns every time. If you can find you a stand and look around at the trees and see if they're producing this year or any year, you know that you've got a place where deer are probably going to come and look for. There's things you have to think about. You have to think about when you're setting your stands. First of all, where do the deer travel? You got to have deer to deer hunt. The second thing is wind. Deer are not going to capture you with their eyes for the most part, even though they have great eyesight. It's going to be their nose. You got to get ahead of their nose. So when you are setting stands up, think about where they're traveling, where the prevailing wind is. From here, or anywhere, it's usually west to east. But have another stand, if you can, set up on another piece of the property if the wind changes. That's where a climbing stand, if you're very comfortable with one, comes in handy because you can move it from place to place. Now, what I'm gonna do, we're coming up on August. It's right around the corner, guys and gals. So we're gonna take a walk up on my property. We're gonna look and see what kind of sign we're seeing. And then we're gonna walk around on the other side of the farm and see if I can find a place to put a stand where I know there's a high traffic area. Let's go take a look. Let's see, I'm gonna come around through here with my mower. This is a highly used path right here. Now these are some older tracks, but obviously we all know what a deer track looks like. But if you don't, go out in the woods after a rain to look for tracks. One of the more obvious things that you might be able to look at and say, okay, there are deer here. And there's a little package deer left behind to tell us he's been wandering through these parts. And as you look right up, there's a little stand that I use. It's a good one-man stand. Here's what I know. I know that the deer bed right in that thick stuff. How do I know? Because I watch them, I observe them. I've also left a big stand of cedar over in that direction. They like to bed down in there. When weather gets bad, they go down that low spot in those cedars and lay down. It keeps them relatively dry and protected from the wind. I don't have a big farm at all. It doesn't take a big, huge farm to be able to take deer. I'm surrounded on all areas by farmland, and there are a lot of deer around. All right, so here's our trail. Here's an obvious bedding area. Now here's my quandary. I don't see a real good tree around the area, so I'm gonna need to pick something that's obviously big enough to support a stand, that has the right angle, so on and so forth. So as I look around, I'm thinking about the wind predominantly out of the west. Trail right here. Think about, as you're planning, that shot. I like a 20-yard shot. Everybody loves a 20-yard shot. That's what I'm aiming for. That's where I want to stay if I can. Now up there, there'd be a little bit of work involved, but we see a cedar tree, a fairly good sized cedar tree. Trail's right here. That's about 18 yards. I could do a little bit of cutting that old red bud there, a couple cedar trees that are dead, and I'd have a pretty good shot at this trail. I have to think about the path of my arrow. So these limbs are going to have to come off. Now, I'm about out of breath, but as you look around you, you see the beginnings of, and we're not for sure about this tree, but that's a very likely spot. I'll probably eventually, even beyond that, cut a tree out. So if one starts to come from the left, I might cut one shooting lane that way, because you don't want to have just one opportunity, because you never know what they're going to do. That stand, if you picture my property on the far east side of my property, you think about the west wind coming in from that direction and the north wind coming from this direction, which you get some in the wintertime. This is going to be a mighty good spot. High traffic area, always has been. Play that wind, absolutely play that wind, because that's the way deer are going to discover your presence there. When they smell you, you're done. And many times, once they know you're there, they're going to look. They're going to be suspicious every time they come around. Do not educate them. Get in and out as quiet as you can. Get in and out as scent-free as you can. And whether you use a climbing stand or a ladder stand, there are advantages and disadvantages to both. I don't like to get up that high. You don't have to get up that high. Always use your safety harness. Once you are in your stand, practice shooting from your stand. Take a target into the woods. Your angle is really going to change the way things look. When you're looking down, typically from a tree stand, you want to make sure that you practice and think about the angle of that arrow, always the angle of the arrow. Finding a place to hunt. Obviously, that can be a challenge. Don't be afraid to knock on a few doors. Talk to some folks, tell them what your motives are. You want to come out and hunt, you'll share the meat with them. You obviously will clean up behind yourself, offer to help them around the farm. When I was a kid, I used to mow people's grass, do anything I could to hunt on their property. That's their property. Now, there's a saying that somebody says, remember, hunting on private property is a privilege. Well, it is. But don't be afraid to knock on a few doors. If you knock on enough, somebody may say yes. Isn't this fun? It's a chess game. You're thinking about what the deer's gonna do and what you're gonna do, and it always is so fun when a plan pays off.